Welcome to the Lost Lowdown, podcast 155, with your hosts, Claude and Justin.
What's up, guys?
We are back, and we are celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the Lost Lowdown podcast.
Woo!
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah! 10 years of this stuff.
My, how time flies when you're on the island.
Yeah.
Jeez. So yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's really amazing to have gotten this far and still not be done.
It seems like only yesterday that I heard Last Cast going over the Blastar map, and we said, hey, what if we tried to do a podcast about Lost?
Well, I mean, if we're retelling the story, it wasn't we said. Let's go back to you said. I want to blame you for this.
Me? Why is it my fault?
Because you were like, hey, I heard a podcast about Lost. There's this thing called podcasting, and you talk about stuff, and there's one on Lost, and it's pretty good. We should do that.
And also, we talk about stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We talk about stuff.
So if we talk about stuff and record it, that's called a podcast.
Yeah, and I was like, you crazy kid. Podcasting will never go anywhere. But you had a gleam in your eye.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, let's just give that cat a shot.
I believed in a simple dream.
Simple dream that two men could record their voices as they discuss endlessly.
And and people would listen to countless hours. And by countless, it's been counted. So
the hours that were actually counted?
It's not really accurate, but...
You mean they would listen to counted hours?
Very specifically counted hours.
Actually tallied hours even.
Yes, counted and tallied and summed.
Storied, perhaps?
Computed and stored and storied.
Stored and storied. This tale is old as time. It's so grand. Yeah, man. No, I do. It does really feel like, honestly, it feels like maybe 5 years ago we had that conversation. That it was just like, cool, yeah, let's try that, and just the enormous surprise from like two guys not able to really finish things. I mean, I say that as we both finish things in our lives, but in terms of like something long term like that, and just being like on a lark, committing to something. I mean, it really, it speaks, high volumes to how good of a show Lost was, or just how crazy our dementia is. I don't know which one. It's probably both.
I would say it's both, and it's hard to know how much of each is really operating there.
Maybe there's a machine on the island that could tell us. But then when you rewatch the information about it, it seems like the person who used it kind of just made it up.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, people like recording themselves talking about TV shows. I mean, everybody's doing it now, but I mean, when this podcast started.
Some of that is our actual reality shows.
When this podcast started, I mean, there were a few Lost podcasts, but in terms of podcasting about TV shows, it was definitely not nearly as much of a thing.
It was a new frontier.
Yeah.
I don't want to say we were pioneers in a genre, but I think we were. I mean, I don't want to say we created podcasting, but if that's what you take away from this, I won't disabuse you of that. I love that word. I love disabuse.
Disabuse, yeah.
It's a weird word. Doesn't get used often enough. So please, people out there, disabuse yourself. Please continue the storied and stored tale that is the Lost of the Lowdown.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's a great story. It's riveting.
Let's talk about the story. Let's have it be more of a meta thing where
I just want to state now that once the Lost Lowdown podcast is done, we have to do a podcast about the Lost Lowdown podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
It's which kind of I guess would have to be called the Lost Lowdown podcast.
Probably.
I mean, if we're being logical about it, if we're being reasonable about it.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, podcasting has changed a lot. I still listen to some, and it's definitely gotten a lot more polished. And, there's a lot of sponsorship and a lot of commercials floating around out there now.
Hey, just to show you how far it's come, back in the wee old era of 2006, people weren't even listening to podcasts on their mobile phones.
Oh, that's true.
It was like, can I listen to America's Top 100 on my mobile phone? No, son. We don't have the technology yet.
And, recently we...
I like you continuing. As if that was just like, as we cut to a dramatization and you just continue the story. Like, I'm just going to ignore that.
I mean, it's a clear image, I assume we fade to black. I don't know. Right. Yeah. Do we need to hear what else Daddy's going to say?
I feel like is it... No, you cut at the right time. I think this is like the Ken Burns documentary of the Lost Lowdown. So we
should be like panning around like black and white photographs of us, even though you've never seen any photographs.
Never seen us. So I mean, obviously we're robots sent from the future to spoil your favorite TV show.
Yeah, I feel compelled to mention like so many things that I'm kind of skipping around here, but you
should go linearly.
Thanks, Claudbot.
You are welcome.
Thanks for keeping me keeping me in line, keeping me on.
It is my function.
On message here. Yeah, so, I mean, I think I have to mention Serial, because I think,
Are you hungry?
I think that's the most, like...
Sorry, I'm gonna
Sorry. I think that's the most, like, significant thing that's happened in podcasting, since we started, in terms of, like, pop culture, Because I think there's a lot of podcasts out there that have like a good following and a decent level of presence, I guess. But that took off like in another way. Like that got Saturday Night Live sketches about it. That was
It's what historians will call the second wave of podcasting.
Yeah, that was a huge thing. And it was a different kind of podcast, really. Like. It wasn't just talking about TV shows, which I love. But it was a crazy thing and really cool. And I think anyone who hasn't already heard Serial season 1 should check that out. Because I don't know if we've even talked about that on here, but I was obsessed with that thing, and I still am. And it's like,
as was I.
It's like. It's like Lost, but with real life, and
it's a real life mystery with compelling characters, and an ambiguous ending.
Very ambiguous ending, and just like I think it gets at a similar thing to what Lost gets at, like this idea of like, how can you ever really know something?
You can't.
Yeah,
that's what I love. It's great. That's the worst thing to have a show about. But it's great.
Yeah, but there's something really interesting about that because it's, I mean, like our lives are really constructed around the idea that we do know things. And, we sort of need to feel like we know things to like make sense of the world. But to really know something is like really hard.
Well, and that's actually a very interesting thing to try to do, right? Because that is the original essence of a story. The reason we would tell a story, is information so we can survive something or understand something. So the hero's journey, is about how to survive in nature. The story about a guy who did it when he went to slay a dragon or fought a bear and came back. The
Right.
coming back is really important. That's the survival part. You wouldn't tell a story about a guy who went off on a great adventure and never came back. He completely failed at it. But we'll leave Seth MacFarlane out of this. Just kidding. Sorry. That was a callback from a different topic we had. Sorry. I had to get the third one in there. It's the comedy gods demand it. So yeah, I forgot what I was saying.
Yeah, is it wildly inappropriate to bring up Game of Thrones at this point?
At this point, really, I think we can do what we want. 10 years in, we can finally let go of the reins and do what we want and stop following this rigid corporate box method of podcasting. We can loosen up a bit. We haven't ever been loose, so let's loosen those neckties just a smidge.
Because it's sort of, it feels like wildly off topic, but I think it's connected to what you were saying.
Why don't you go there and then bring it on home?
Yeah. So I don't really know what that means, but I'm just gonna keep talking.
I mean, go on your tangent and then try to tie it back into.
Sure. Yeah. I love it. That's what I was gonna do. I thought that's what you meant, but then I was like, not sure. Anyway, I don't know why I needed to take you through my thought process, but that's what it was. It was pretty short, but now I'm analyzing. Okay.
Yeah.
Woo, too many levels. Okay, so in last week's Game of Thrones, I hope you're all caught up.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil it. Sorry.
Seriously, major spoilers. So sorry, this doesn't even matter.
By last week we mean what was that? May 12th? I'm sorry, May 15th.
Yeah, May 15th. The episode that aired May 15th, 2016.
2016. And our anniversary that we're celebrating from podcast number 1. We're on 155 now.
Yep.
Podcast number 1 was on May 8th, 2006.
2006.
See there? Almost got you.
2006. Yeah. It feels totally unnecessary to do this, but I just, basically we don't have a Game of Thrones podcast,
We don't.
Various reasons for that. But I just want to get this thing out since, we're recording this. Because
this goes out to all the listeners who have wanted us to talk about Game of Thrones. So here's a nice Game of Thrones segment.
Here's a brief Game of Thrones Lost Lowdown thing. So, you've talked about many times this idea of having characters, and this is something we wanted on Lost too, to tie it in. Like having characters, they go off, they all have their individual like adventures and experiences and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But wanting that scene where they get together in a bar and they talk about all the shit. And exactly.
That's the end of the hero's journey. That is the hero coming back with the knowledge that he gained and coming back to tell the people the story. I mean, the hero's the one who is telling the story of his journey, right? And then that gets told over through time. So I mean, I feel like that's why I want that part, because it's great going through the journey and the character change and becoming something new. But if you don't come back to share that with the next generation, the next iteration, then that idea dies, and it's not satisfying if you don't loop it back,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like I felt a little bit, I feel like it was there, but this will just take a minute, so feel free to, if you need to get caught up on Game of Thrones, like you can go do that and then come back.
Play this next minute at 1/60th speed. Don't pause it. Play it at 1/60th speed, please. Thank you. We would enjoy it.
Oh wow, that's gonna get
very okay.
So after in season 1, spoiler alert, basically all of the Star Children are separated, and they all go in various directions. By the end of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
They're all like in different places, and they all have various individual adventures. And this season, finally, 2 of them reunited.
Yeah.
So Sansa showed up at the wall where Jon Snow had recently been resurrected. Big time spoilers. Those are it. And they I guess they sort of implied that they went in that room and like
I know where this is going.
and discussed what had happened to each of them to some extent, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of implied. I felt like we didn't really see enough of that, and like Jon Snow just got resurrected by a witch.
Yep.
Like
this mofo just got resurrected by a witch.
This is kind of and Sansa's takeaway is we gotta take back Winterfell. Like, fine, sure, I agree.
Don't get me started.
I agree, but your bastard brother got resurrected by a witch.
You and your brother is a bastard because you don't know he just got resurrected, and you telling him to go save your home. Yeah,
it's just that's a little too crazy to just be
in that moment when they were in that scene, which it should be the scene, after they had just reunited.
Yeah,
this should be the scene where they start hashing out what happened to them, plot point by plot point, over perhaps a nice cup of tea.
Yeah,
and by the fire. And instead, like, I was wondering what was going to happen. I remember thinking, is he actually going to tell her in this moment this big thing that's going to need a lot of explaining?
Yeah.
And honestly, you see that a lot in TV shows, especially. Like, they have we've talked about it. I feel like they have a direction they want the scene to go, and it's Saeed's. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
It's okay. This huge thing just happened that the audience is aware of. Most of the characters know, or like, the main character in this scene is processing this scene with a different set of information. Something just happened, but they can't in this moment share it. Otherwise, that scene will become about that thing and not the other thing, which is Sansa needing to immediately say, "Hey, we need to go, retake Winterfell." So I mean it's a big pet peeve of mine, but I feel like I understand why they do it. But my thing is, like, I think you still have to have, like, what I expect is something like, he doesn't tell her. Usually what you'll see is he doesn't tell her in that scene, but a third party, like the old guy, I forgot his name, Stannis's guy.
Oh, Davos.
Yeah, Davos. Like, it would, you've seen it in scenes before where a character like that would go, "You have to tell her," or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like a one line, just so we know, the audience knows, okay, it is in his head that they have to have that conversation.
Yeah.
They acknowledge that they skip it, but they didn't even have that. So yeah, I do think it's weird because it's such. I mean, it'd be different if it was just anything else. Even if, like, okay, Jon Snow just had the huge battle before he got killed, the battle on the wall, and then all the stuff, the White Walk. I mean, he's got a lot of things that he should tell her, but there's this huge, huge, crazy thing that she would never believe and understand that it, but then I think they do get away with it a little bit with the idea that he doesn't understand what happened and he doesn't know the whole concept. He saw it from his perspective, not ours. And he's afraid of it too, so he's not ready to even really start talking about it. But you do feel like, okay, you should just tell her what happened, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's I mean, the thing is with the guys at the wall, it's I kind of get that they're not like losing their shit because a lot of them, I mean, at least some of them, I mean, they've seen White Walkers, they've seen the dead rise before.
Yeah, they know that's a thing.
So it's not exactly the same as that, but it's not that different. So it's when you've seen crazy, they've seen giants, they've seen when you've seen all that kind of stuff, then I kind of understand that it's like, yeah, well, this is a crazy world we live in, but really Sansa hasn't seen anything like that.
No.
So she can tell Jon Snow like, hey, don't trust Littlefinger. But, like...
Not quite equal experience there. She's going to be like, hey, John, bro, men are bad.
Men are really
all my travels in the last 6 seasons has taught me men are bad. Except for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's like, I think... she couldn't possibly just be like, yeah, whatever, let's go. So that makes me think he didn't tell her. Because I just can't imagine he told her and then she was like, yeah, whatever.
And here's the thing, they're going to save that for when they can really wring the best bang for their buck.
Yeah.
It's a weird phrase. I was trying to say get the most out of it. And that's going to be later when the tension is higher, and they'll use it in some moment as a way to maybe try to manipulate her or to say, that's not really your brother. He was just resurrected, and or don't trust the red one. Like it'll come in something when it's not just about delivering information the audience already knows. It'll come when it helps with like conflict and like heightening the drama, That's usually when they save those things for. But it is just kind of frustrating to have that dramatic irony of just being like, okay, we know this huge thing, please, because part of you wants him to talk about it just so he can acknowledge it, and so we can see what he thinks about it and then like and just like explore that idea because it's so crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's that whole thing, man. That I mean, to me, that's what you got to have. It's like sharing that information. But yeah, they both had crazy things go on. I do wonder about John. I guess we know what that. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, the other thing is they have this plot requirement where they're trying to mount this whole thing where they need to get, I guess, the houses in the families in the north aligned under John so they can go fight I don't know who this season. and prepare for all of that. Can I just guess what like the final I mean, is it really just going to be Daenerys, the Stormborn, mother of dragons, Stormborn, bringer of the rain, breaker of the chains, chain breaker, heartbreaker. Is she just gonna build a huge army plus dragons in the west, and Jon Snow is just gonna build a huge army in the north, and then who's ever left in the south is just gonna have a big army, and then they're just gonna fight? Is that what happens? They're just all gonna fight for King's Landing, right? Like, is that I mean, that's what the throne is. So, like, that's the ultimate battle, right? Will be over that central kingdom, right? And that'll be, in terms of trying to conquer Westeros.
Yeah, seemingly. It's I mean, it's not clear how all this stuff plays out, but it does seem like that should be an important thing in the end.
Because it just hit me when Tangent was like, oh no, we have to. I'm like waiting for it. We have to align the families, for an army. And I'm like, oh man, how many times have we heard that? How many times is like that the thing that a main character needs to do? Like every main character has had that at some point of like, well, we have a conflict and it's gonna come to fighting, so we need more people.
Yeah.
And so now we have to figure out a way to get more people, and
Yeah.
it's just all these various ways to kind of do that.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't know what I expected her to say, but when that happened, I was just like, oh, okay. Well, now I see where that's going. I mean, I'm sure it'd be interesting how they do it. It always is, but it's just like as a thing, as an overall plot, I'm just like, oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, Lord of the Rings has some of that. It's,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably, with this kind of story, it's inevitable. But it is a little bit tedious, and I am sort of more interested in what, okay, you got it, like, then what?
Exactly. Why is all of a sudden the story done? I mean, what is the resolution to the story,
Yeah, that's definitely not clear. And George 2R's Martin was very outspoken about the ending of Lost. There was a big dust up about that a while ago that I think David Lindelof got mildly involved in. Where he said he didn't like the ending of Lost and the Game of Thrones thing would not end like that, whatever that means.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things he was talking about was all the unresolved plot points and stuff.
Well, I mean, Damien Lindelof likes to write about ambiguity, and I think that's just it. Yeah. You're not writing the same thing when and I like to call him George D.R. Martin. DR is in double R.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't save any more time. It's just funnier.
I see.
Yeah, I think he's making a very, I mean, it's grounded in a way, right? Like the kind of things that I mean, it's fantastical, but like, the kind of things that are gonna happen are gonna actually happen. It won't be like any kind of, I think, ambiguity about the actual details of the plot,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we already see a difference with, Jon Snow's resurrection versus Locke's resurrection.
Or Saeed's
resurrection, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where it's sort of like, it's sort of clear why it happened, even if it's not clear what it means. You see the whole process, and there isn't this weird like the Lost version would be, she's like something weird happens and it's like, oh, the spell's tainted or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say she tries to resurrect Jon Snow, it doesn't work, and he resurrects like it happens in the show. And then what Lost would have done, which would have been actually really awesome and totally just so fucking Lost, she would have said, I didn't do anything.
Right.
My spell didn't, like you said, my spell didn't work. That wasn't the right spell. That was my paprika souffle recipe. I was thinking about.
Yeah. And I was actually expecting her to say that.
Because and it would have made sense. It's because she just had a crisis of her faith about whether this all mattered or worked. And to me, it was ambiguous. That's a new term. That when she, another spoiler, of course, when we saw that she was really old.
Mm-hmm.
And so was that her power fading that we saw that? Did she allow that to happen? Is it better for her energy usage if she doesn't look young? like use her power to look young all the time? Like, did she go to bed like that all the time?
Yeah.
It's just like this one scene was just like, that's great. Oh man, great twist. What so much information I don't have.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not clear what it means. I mean, at the time, like I thought it was all those things. It was sort of like a sign her powers were waning. It was about her losing faith. Like I imagined it requiring energy to like maintain this more youthful appearance. I sort of imagined it a little bit like Odo, you know?
Yeah.
Where like
it takes willpower to keep the form. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then he sleeps in a bucket, and like that's
Yeah.
her version of sleeping in a bucket, just like dropping all the the sort of illusion, like the fake appearance.
Yeah.
And like I guess the more the more energized she feels, maybe the easier it is to maintain, in terms of how powerful she is. And it's like I don't know. I mean, I feel like that plot is important, and I keep following it, waiting for like the big thing. And like, why isn't it big enough that she resurrected a guy? I don't know, but like. And she even said, like, oh, he's the whatever that was promised or something, and I will do whatever he says. And, so she's, like, into him and stuff. But it kind of seems like she's just, like, slightly, I don't know, like, not really, like, she's saying the words, but it doesn't seem like she really means it. Or, like, there's not a lot of enthusiasm there,
Yeah.
And
I don't know how to take it either. It's very weird that because it does seem like it would be a pretty straightforward thing to convey. Like, okay, she was super devout and she had a crisis of faith and a miracle happened, and now she either reaffirms her faith, she doesn't believe it's a miracle and it doesn't matter to her, or she thinks something else, like a third option, It's like one of those things. But yeah, they kind of like played it in the middle between the three, and it was just kind of like, all right, guess we'll get an explanation later. Because really, it begs the question: well, what else can you do? I mean, like every time she uses her power, like something else happens. It's not, which is kind of nice. It's kind of cool and unique. Like, it's not like old Stormborn's act of just like walking through fire every time she's in an emergency.
Right.
She's got her trick, and that's really all she could do. So that's interesting, but it doesn't. It's kind of I would expect again Davos or someone to come to her and be like, to inquire. I mean, is it just that since they're in this era, this kind of olden time era, that they just don't really ask questions we would ask? They don't. The Enlightenment hasn't happened yet, and they just take things as they are, and the world is just so unpredictable that to ask any more questions about her powers and what she can do would just be would be silly. It would be silly to ask. Why would she know?
That reminds me of the Mr. Show sketch, the sort of Stone Age educational film that starts with questions. The modern mind can think of 3 questions.
3 questions. Yeah, exactly. We've got to 3, guys. We're doing good.
Yeah. It's not clear to me how much it is really that it's sort of thought out, that's why, and how much of it is just like not thinking about it.
Yeah.
And just like there's an end point where the story's going, and like,
well, I know they're thinking about it. They can't work 40 hours plus a week for 9 months or whatever and not think about it.
Or maybe deciding it doesn't matter, even if they do think about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to have characters question this because we're going here and we don't need that. We don't need to spend time on that.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's the thing, to know that the audience is gonna say, well, how does she feel about this, or how does John feel about that? and then to say, well, that doesn't matter, then that means something.
Yeah.
Wow, we really drilled down to the heart of impenetrable questions. We're really, it means something.
But yeah, I think that it because it's not the show isn't typically like Lost. It's sort of like I could almost accept this more from a show that was more just about the ambiguity of it all. But not that Game of Thrones doesn't have ambiguity, but I think it's certainly not focused on it in the same way. It's much more of a we will, I mean, not every week, but when crazy things happen, we'll show it. We're not shying away from it, Um, we'll let you see it. I mean, even the details sometimes, Um, it won't just be this kind of insinuation and leaping to conclusions and a lot of that dance that Lost did with their crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like I just find it weird. I find it weird that after sort of building up her character's loss of faith, revealing this thing about her, and now she's just like, yeah, he's the one that was promised, I guess. Yeah, so that's it. Like, she just seems sort of mildly uninterested.
And she doesn't pledge herself to him like what is my task? What do you want to do? Like, because she seemed to be, I mean, she was guiding Stannis, but like she was at his side. You know what I mean? It
all
was
the time.
I don't know why it doesn't transfer.
Yeah, it's weird.
Now
it seems like she hasn't even really, like, she spoke to him when he first woke up, but it doesn't even seem like he's like getting ready to leave, and
I imagine she's gonna go with them. There's no reason for her to stay behind because they're not gonna be cutting to that storyline for a while. I don't think, because I think everyone of interest is gonna leave that place.
Yeah.
I imagine it's like, they'll be getting ready to leave and they'll get on their horses and it's time to say goodbye and she'll just be standing there and then like it'll be like, they'll look at each other and then they'll just cut and then she'll be with them and we'll do a podcast months from now and ask why that scene happened and why does it make any sense and why didn't they acknowledge that she wanted to go, and the cycle will continue.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just like weirdly underplayed. And I don't get it because that isn't her character. I mean, in previous scenes with her doing her thing, like, she's totally into, here's what you have to do, Stannis, because the prophecy says that blah blah blah. Like, it's not just the like, yeah, you're the one, I guess, so I'll just stand over here.
Stannis, you gotta get that prophecy. You did it like Harvey Fierstein.
Was that the voice I used?
That's like Harvey Fierstein impression.
Wow.
Yeah, you're like, eh. Yeah, I mean, and that's the question. Is her change in personality because she's got that old feeling? That love feeling.
Oh God.
Sorry. That the scene where she was old. Like, was that supposed to be like a turning point and the audience is supposed to understand, okay, now something's different about her. And so now that's why she's so subdued, because she doesn't have that energy anymore, and that was supposed to tell us that.
Oh.
Or was it supposed to tell us she's been like this the whole time? That to me was what's confusing. Like, there was no context to it. Yeah. So we didn't really know how to take it, if this is the first time thing or all the time thing. And right. I think that would, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it was the first time thing, and that was the first time she saw herself with her real age and her real look. Yeah. I can't say that's how it came off, but
no, not really.
But but back to your main point, George D.R. Martin. I do think he's got a lot to live up to for an ending with saying that about Lost. That
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think he's gonna find that like doing an ending that the fans will be satisfied with, and for him, I mean, book readers. I mean, the first book was from '96, so
mm-hmm.
he's gonna have to satisfy fans that have been following his series for 20 plus years. He's gonna find that's pretty hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty rare that long series like that follow people follow over a long period of time, and that especially enter the pop culture like this, that they come to an ending that everyone says, yeah, like that was perfect. I think it's really easy to leave out the thing that certain people want to see.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and what's gonna be weird that most media stories don't really have to. Well, they have to do it in different ways, but just the idea of your audience not not your demographic not changing, but actually growing older. So like what
Yeah.
a hardcore fan liked about Game of Thrones 20 years ago, now they're 20 years older.
Yeah.
And to some degree you have to think about, I would think, how to satisfy what they want now. Has what they wanted changed?
Yeah.
Because 20 years ago you weren't writing necessarily for that person 20 years from now.
Right.
So it's weird. So I think, yeah, depending on your age if you read, whenever you read it 5 years ago or 20 years ago, like, yeah, things have changed for you, and what you want out of it might have changed. So that's a crazy variable to have to deal with.
Yeah. I definitely like different things now than I liked in 1996. And I think if I may, like Lost came at a good time. Like it was a good transition for me. Between sort of I think a more superficial liking of things that I had before to a more, I guess, heavier analytical appreciation of things.
Yeah.
That I tend to engage in now with everything I watch. Not just mysteries or whatever, or just Lost. But I think going through that process of doing the podcast, really, I don't know, trained me or like taught me how to think about how TV shows work.
I'm sorry. So apologize. If you're looking for an apology, I'm really sorry. All I can say is I'm a victim too, and we can't really get back to past. We can only move forward.
It's not really the same anymore. I still enjoy TV, but I enjoy it in a different way.
It's a type of film school, because that's what happens in film school, or really anything you study, and you take a thing you like, and then you find out why it works, and you're like, ugh, why did I do that? Because you'll find that the things that you will like the things that work, and those will be different things.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's really started to hit me is sort of just the limits of like where a story can go. And I think this is especially true on TV because, movies, I think because of the way they're shot and sort of just the way they work, like in terms of production, like you can totally have like a big star character like just die at some point in the story. But when a TV show commits to a character dying, it's kind of a bigger deal. If they're like part of the main cast, or especially if they're like the central character around which everything revolves.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an extent to which if the show's like that, that character cannot die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, it's just impossible. And not only can't they die, but they can't be sort of, you know, rendered, you know, incapable of doing the thing that they do that sort of drives the whole show.
Yeah.
You know, and so I start, once you realize those limits, like, here's what the show's about, and therefore that forces certain limitations. And then you realize, well, okay, the story can go, like, a lot of times it's like, well, the story can go one of like three ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
3 is a very common denominator in a lot of things for that reason, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's either what you expect, the opposite of what you expect, or something, or a third thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's just like, well, these things can't happen, so it just
Mm-hmm.
forces you down these, and then, you know, literally every time you watch, and you're just like, well, they chose number 2 or
Yep.
whatever,
Yeah.
you know?
And that's why it's crazy that we're still telling stories that even though um I don't you know, stories aren't finite, but I think the application of stories, you know, storytelling in a way becomes finite when it's in a commoditized form. I said it right. I
Commoditized?
said it right.
Oh, sorry,
All
commoditized?
all you people who thought I said it
Commercialized?
wrong. That form. Yeah, I think it. Yeah, it just it becomes a very like paint by numbers thing. Um, that yeah, if you analyze the structure to death, then you will see how it is made and how they are forced into options. You know, because every decision is a character walking into a room. Okay, the room only has so much stuff going on. It only has so many doors or windows or vents or chairs or you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is interesting to kind of see that stuff. And honestly, that's the you know the more I became or watched things critically and analytically, the more I hated spoilers because when you know that truth that there's only so many things that can happen, um, that means you're limiting how much surprise you can have when
Yeah.
you're watching the thing you're watching.
Yeah.
And so if you get a spoiler, like a trailer or anyone telling you anything, they're now just taking away the limited supply of surprise you had.
Yeah.
Even if it's something like who's in the like I get, you know, I this is the first time I've actually been able to verbalize why I care so much about spoilers to this degree because that's what it is. Like even knowing what the cast is, it's a type of spoiler because I go, oh
Yeah.
okay, you cast this actor who plays big character. You cast Jim Carrey. Okay, great. Well, now I know what kind of movie this is. You know, even that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Now you took one little bit of surprise away that I had. I'm already was limited because I'm gonna analyze stories to death. You know.
Right.
So I think yeah, that kind of thing really comes into play when you have podcast 10 years about a story being told on TV and other stories being told on TV and film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Robot Claude is back.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think in Game of Thrones, like, one thing they've done really well is trick you into thinking that certain characters are more important than they are,
Mm-hmm.
and then shocking you when they die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I feel like that's a really cool move. Like we will convince you that this character matters too much to die, and then when they
Yeah.
die, you'll say, "Oh my God, I never saw that coming," you know. But then when you
Yeah.
look back, you realize, oh, well, now I see why they were dispensable.
Uh-huh.
You know, so that's definitely how I feel about Ned Stark in season 1. Like, he comes across as the main character of the show, but when you think about the story they're setting up, and especially the way they're setting up all the things going on with his kids, it seems clear that the show is going to be about the reaction to his death.
But then you're like, he can't die. He was Boromir in Lord of the Rings. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But
yeah,
or
and,
you know,
and
the
it's
Red
great.
Wedding or whatever, like all the characters that die in the Red Wedding, it's like when you look back, you're like, yeah, but actually for the long-term story, those characters didn't really matter.
Well, and that's what's interesting too, because if you think about it, Game of Thrones is kind of the best children's fantasy story ever, or one of the best, because it's really about the kids. Like it's
Yeah,
really about these kids'
true.
journey after their parents are gone in whatever way. And even if you look at the adults, their parents are getting killed.
Yeah.
And now it's about what do they do when their parents are gone.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting thing that just popped out at me.
Yeah.
Because you just set that up
Teenager
with like
thing.
Sean Bean's kids. Yeah, because you don't know that that's the story.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
about
that
all
was
the
the thing I
kids.
didn't perceive initially. Like, you're spending time with the kids and you're thinking like it's just fleshing out the world, but it's like, no, this is actually about the kids. It's
Yeah.
just making you think it's about Ned.
Well, it's funny because one of the first, I think I tried to write 2 novels when I was a kid. Yes, novels, and it shows you how
You
ambitious
heard
I
that.
was.
Right.
Yeah, with an N. And
Not a Marvel.
not a marvel and not a shovel.
Most people would say shovel, but fair enough.
No, not a shovel. And I said it right.
Oh, okay.
And that my story was about three. It was a fantasy story about 3 kids whose parents get killed by like the evil king, and they have to go on a journey to. It was I forgot where they're going now, but they were going on a journey for some. Oh no, their parents got kidnapped. That's what it
Oh,
was.
okay.
They were going to save the parents, but it was about the 3 kids, and each kid had a special kind of, one kid was the kind of leader with the sword and shield, and one kid was kind of the kid with the magic powers, and
Mm-hmm.
one kid was like, he was like the dwarf or something in their group. Like he was
Yeah.
like had the weird fighting style and like comedy and stuff, and it was called Return to Zork.
Oh.
You heard me.
Uh,
And
Named after the video game.
that was my inspiration, and by that I mean I stole it.
Oh, okay. Those two really, they can easily mean the same thing.
And I wrote 5 pages.
Oh,
So
okay.
what I'm telling you, kids, is never give up on your dreams.
Return to Zork. Wow. Wow.
Anyway, I guess my point was, yeah, that's actually why I really like Game of Thrones is that idea is exactly right there. I mean, I love Arya
Yeah.
Stark storyline is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea. We're so not podcasting about Lost. I love the idea. I love the idea of this girl who was like, no, I don't want to just be a princess in a castle and do nothing until my king beckons. I want to actually have a real life and make my own decisions and live my life. And then it was just I love the idea that world said, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
You want to live in the real world? Here it is. Here it is, sister.
Yeah.
And she goes in this crazy, it's like Carol. I love characters
Yeah.
who get beaten down and then become stronger and then like become just badasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Rose on Lost. She no, not like Rose. Sorry.
I was gonna say. Yeah. 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 Bernard. Oh God. But yeah, I mean, I think it's it's I guess I appreciate it even though it did like ruin some of the magic, I guess, that I used to have when I would watch something and my mind was not thinking about those things. And so in a way it seemed open to, almost any possibility. So like whatever happened could easily be a surprise.
And that's the best audience to have, is the audience that doesn't know your tricks. Like any magician. Yeah. Like a magician doesn't want another magician as his audience member. He wants the person who's never seen magic.
Right.
And just FYI, the title of this conversation right now, this segment, is How Has the Lost Lowdown Affected You?
Yes.
Since we're talking about our 10 years with the Lost Lowdown.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's how the Game of Thrones discussion is relevant.
That's how it's relevant. And if you say it's not, we will disagree with you.
Because, I really... I definitely take all the Lost stuff to watching that show. And I think a lot about how, like, it's different in the way it presents its strangeness from Lost, It's not that common to find shows that present things that way. I mean, if you want something that presents things like Lost, you can go to The Leftovers.
Yeah. See Damien Lindelof's latest work.
Which we did a podcast about. You should check that out if you haven't yet.
Check that out over on Mr. Podcast.
Yeah, it was fun. We did commentaries and we talked a lot about season 2, which is great.
Great with the G.
But that's not common in television. I mean, that sort of mode for storytelling. I mean, I really appreciate it, but it's not something you find on every show.
Well, talk about anything can happen. And again, I mean, here's a spoiler for Leftovers, but now let's talk about Leftovers.
Anything but Lost.
Everything but God, 10 years on Lost. Can we get off of it? No, I think the same thing with in terms of taking the analysis gained by analyzing Lost, but over to like Leftovers. The idea of possibility in storytelling. When Kevin died, and I'm just thinking, well, okay, what is this show? This show is, it's a drama, weird things happen, but we haven't seen anything too, like, obviously fantastical. They've been, like, ambiguously fantastical, So, okay, what is really going to happen now that Kevin's dead? Well, we're not going to leave his perspective, right? Okay, it's his show. Everything's got to be from his perspective, right? Okay. But, okay, are we really going to see the afterlife? No, I mean, why would they show an afterlife in this show? This show is about a huge supernatural event that they didn't show. Why would they show another supernatural event, like the afterlife? What happens after you die, Yeah. That's just a theme that Damien Lindelof loves to talk about, but why would they show that? And then the next episode, they show it, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know that was possible in your storytelling, and then now that I know it is, and then it was that thing of, well, okay, they did it once, but there's no way they're going to, like, actually confirm that this post-life hotel actually really is there, right, by showing it a second time, and then, of course,
they go back. Yeah, I never would have expected that. Doing one whole episode there, I can almost buy, because it's like
it's still in the construct of his.
Yeah. I mean, it's like like a holodeck episode, or like sometimes shows have those like wacko episodes where it's like an alternate universe, where like all the characters have like different roles that are variations on what they're doing or whatever, or you imagine the main character has some other crazy job than what they have, and he's playing a secret agent or something, and it's almost like you could still just have that as a kind of self-contained crazy episode, and then just like not even go back to that. But they did. He went back there, and like the guy was still there, and
remembered him.
And remembered him, and it was the same hotel, and it was just like, oh my God, this is they're really making this a real thing. Like, he's gonna die and go there. and and he has to like find his way out. It's crazy, like that's actually, that they committed to that so much.
I just not to cut you off, but I just had this crazy theory.
Okay.
About what the hotel might be.
Okay. I'm ready.
We know that Sir Lindelof likes to tell stories about consciousness.
Definitely.
And consciousness separating from the body.
Yeah.
So what if when Kevin dies, his consciousness is separated from his body, and and is sort of in the ether or whatever, and that is kind of how his dad can communicate with him while his dad is still back on Earth.
About the hotel room thing, the TV,
the TV thing.
That was the craziest. Oh my god.
Yeah, like
so
it's already
weird.
crazy, but then he connected it back to the real world.
Yeah.
And said, "Oh, there's a bridge that they can communicate with, and it's your hotel room TV."
Yeah, and his dad's on the other end in a hotel room, like with, I don't know, like having some kind of like drug-induced visionary experience where he's communicating with the afterlife. I mean, that's taking. I feel like that's taking the Desmond gets like electromagnetic shocked into the afterlife to the next level.
Well, but it's also grounding it, right? It's doing it in a way that the idea of like having a hallucinatory experience from a shamanistic ritual, like, is a super grounded thing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, like grounding that, and then like.
But I think he likes that, I mean, he in general, like the approach of Lost and the Leftovers is to approach like supernatural or crazy ideas from as grounded a perspective as possible. Like keep it as simple and as straightforward as possible.
Yeah.
And like limit the amount of insanity that we have to tolerate.
Yeah, just the idea of consciousness and leaving the body. I'm thinking about that in the context of that show. That's interesting because he is crazy, and he does black out.
He's definitely crazy. Yeah.
So where's his consciousness going when he's blacking out? It's doing something in his same body, but I wonder.
Well, and it was really crazy that, I mean, when he was blacking out, he was still doing stuff.
Yeah.
And talking to people, and like he had plans, like I'm gonna go kill myself now and battle my adversary. Like he had that plan in his blackout state before he had it in his regular.
And it's funny because you just bring up a thing that makes me question that whole thing about, they're like, Kevin, what was it? You got an adversary, Kevin. No.
Yeah, that was it. That was pretty much it.
Remember, everybody remembers it that way. Kevin, I am your adversary. That whole thing, but the idea of when Nora got that call, when Nora's a lens.
Oh right, yeah.
Lens crafters called and they said they need you back in their store. I don't know. Sorry guys, bad attempt. We're out of lenses. Can you come over? But it just made me think that, and then the lady calls and says, she has a demon in her side of her or whatever.
Right.
But that just made me think that that's a similar idea, this idea that you have something bad attached to you. And I was just thinking, like, what if that lady had said that about Kevin, and then they end up having this adversary thing? That would have been a weird kind of connection.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's kind of strange how they kind of laugh off and dismiss that, that there's like some kind of demonic influence that's causing her, Nora, to be a lens. Mm-hmm. Whereas like Kevin's adversary is treated, I mean, obviously some of the characters think it's crazy, but certainly he takes it seriously. And, you know, and I mean, they kind of dramatize like the battle, you know, in a very simple way. It's not them like, you know, having like some kind of dramatic Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, you know, fight or something.
Which would have been cool.
They kind of just like talk, and then he like pushes her in a well, which again, David Lindelof likes people getting pushed in wells.
He loves wells. I don't know if he got trapped in a well. He grew up on a farm with a well.
There's something with wells. It's weird.
He's a fan of Orson Welles. Any of those choices. It's always 3. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. So about Lost.
Yeah, but I mean, all that, you know, all that, the point of all that was just to say that, you know, Lost came at a particular time. It was a good time for, you know, the emergence of podcasting, for, I think, both of us being in the right place where we would have time and want to like engage in something like that.
It's like the Wright brothers.
And yeah, and it was the right show.
Wright brothers, right show. Look at that. It was like the Flight at Kitty Hawk.
Because I think if we
that's funny, because the first episode we did was 2 for the road. 2 for the airways. That's weird.
Because I think if we had attached ourselves to a different show, it wouldn't necessarily worked out that way, you know. But
like Big Brother, we were so into that.
Exactly. Like, I feel like in retrospect, it's clear that, you know, to a certain extent, it was luck. You know, because plenty of shows like can generate a blast or map moment or whatever, you know, where it's like, oh my God, it's cool, you know.
Yeah.
But Lost had staying power, you know.
You know what's funny that I've never stated it this way before, but it's actually really funny that, you know, we've talked before about the idea, like the Holon effect, like holography, which is a word you can Google because it's hard to describe. But the idea, I like to use big words I don't quite know the meaning of.
Must do.
But the idea that, you know, the characters on the show interacting with the island has a type of relationship that's mirrored by the audience watching the show, reacting to the show.
Yeah.
Reacting to the characters, reacting to the island. You know, it's this weird kind of fractal meta thing. But what's weird about that is that's you know, and the idea with Lost, you know, being this mystery, and like we started this conversation with the idea of like, wow, bringing it home. Look at that, we're bringing it home.
Yeah.
Is the idea of truth and not being able to know what's true.
Yeah.
And just taking, you know, believing things that people tell you and then operating on those things based on your own beliefs. And so my point being, like, that's how, you know, when you're saying like it was luck and it could have been any show and all that kind of thing, that's how I first got into Lost. It wasn't watching Lost. It was hearing word of mouth what Lost was about.
Right.
You know, it was someone describing Lost to me in a way that was completely inaccurate, yet my behavior changed in a way that made me move towards it and then get you to watch it, you know. So the first thing I heard about Lost, you know, I knew it was a show when it came on in season 1. I saw some promos. I've already seen Gilligan's Island.
Right.
I don't need to watch a show about people I don't know on an island I'll never go to.
Right.
I've seen my family photos at Hawaii. It's boring.
Right. You don't know your family?
I got lost in my logic there.
Okay.
So I'll have to go back and see if that made any sense.
Okay. Sorry, I just had to. There's a little plot hole. Anyway.
I guess I was saying I don't want to watch a show about characters I don't know, places I'll never visit, because I did watch something with people I do know in a place I did visit.
Okay, there we go. Look at that.
I should not have explained that. That's how I meant to say it. I said it right.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, and then the second season, I was just talking to some friends, and as you know, and I'll say it for the record once again, like, it was just the first thing was, yeah, there's a guy in a box on the island, and he has to press a button, and if he doesn't, the world's gonna end. So that's not unlike Mother taking Jacob and Man in Black to the light cave and saying, that's life and death and everything in between. Like,
yeah,
it's inaccurate at best. But nevertheless, we're gonna have a whole show about it.
Right. Well, and also there's there's some truth there.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. Yeah, no, that the idea of hearing this thing word of mouth, and believing in a certain idea of it, that's not quite the thing.
It's yeah, but you can see when you see the show, you're like, well, I see how they got that. I see where all the parts came from, but it was their own way of explaining it. Or way of distilling what's going on there, which I understand. I would never explain it that way.
Yeah.
I would get involved in too many details, that people wouldn't want to hear. I would have to say, well, you see, there's this island, this mysterious island with these strange properties, and there was this organization called the Dharma Initiative, and they came to the island and they built all these things. And it's already too long.
Yeah.
You don't need to hear all that.
But what would you say if somebody said, casually, you don't have an hour to tell them what's Lost? Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that show was on ABC, right? Yeah, what's that about?
I mean, really, what's it about, or sort of what's it about as a hook?
Well, when somebody asks what's it about, they're basically asking what's the premise and what's the show like.
Yeah.
So what's it about is
basically it's about a group of strangers who crash on a mysterious island, and their attempt to get off.
Yeah, exactly. And the encounter mystery and they try not to die.
Yeah.
But what the show is really about is, as Carlton and Damon said, the meaning of life and what happens after we die.
Yeah.
So, obviously, right?
Yeah, but I guess that's not how you sell a show. You should go watch the show. It's about the meaning of life.
No, as they sold it, it's a cop show. It's a law show. It's a doctor show.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's the pop version, zeitgeisty version of the show, and then there's what's going on. But anyway, I just thought that was an interesting thing I never thought of. The way we got to the show is very much akin to
in spirit with the show.
In spirit with the show, yeah.
Yeah, it's
probably how people who are listening started watching the show, and probably how they started, listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I never really thought about it that way. That it's an example of that phenomenon, and also your reaction is.
Yeah, because there's people out there who got a pitch like that, or some interesting pitch to the show, what it was about, and they didn't care. And they decided to move on the other side of the room, and those are the Rose and Bernards.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We're retired from all that.
No, we're done. Jack's trying to blow up the island again.
Yeah. Here we go.
Yeah, so it's definitely, I love that aspect of the show, though, of just being able to illustrate It's a very analytical show. Like I think you could actually take someone who knows like game theory and have them like describe the show in like mathematics, you know, because it's very analytical in terms of like here's a catalyst and here's some variables and here's possible reactions and here's some randomness thrown in for good measure. And now what are the outcomes, you know? And then you get like 14 outcomes and those are your characters.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It stands up to that stuff really well. And I think it's just sort of like, I don't know. I had never heard about the show. I mean, I heard about it from you, from this person. So, it's like second level for me. I don't know how if they hadn't said that, I mean, I guess I probably would have found it at some point because, I have a general interest in that kind of TV, but TV wasn't even the same when Lost was on, when it started. I mean, I think TV's gone through like a pretty big transition, during the time that Lost was on.
TV 2.0.
And since it's been off, like a lot of
TV
things
3.0.
that are like a lot of things that are the norm now, you just didn't find on very many shows.
Yeah.
Back then. And there are things that, I mean, they had been on a few shows before, but very rare and usually very like cult shows. But Lost was like a mega hit, super popular, especially in the first season. So it had a huge, and it's just like, I think at the time we didn't realize at least I didn't realize like how significant it was.
Well, as Rembrandt said, who can recognize great art during the time it is made?
Yeah. Well, thank you,
probably
Rembrandt.
Said it in Italian. Is he Italian?
No, I think he's I don't remember. Dutch or something?
Oh, Dutch.
Maybe, or Belgian?
You can't put a D next to a T and not be Dutch.
All right, I'm going to check before. Yeah, Dutch. That was right. Good. Woo. That was kind of a guess, so I'm glad I was right. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was secretly in my brain, and I thought it was a guess, but it was actually a memory.
Yep.
Hard to know.
Hard to know. Like the flashbacks on Lost. Are they guesses? Are they memories? It's hard to know.
It is. Yeah.
Again, that is another thing, though, talking about truth and what you could know, which is nothing. The flashbacks, like we take those as actually happening. But is there proof? Do they happen the way they were depicted?
Not really. I don't think so. I mean, it's hard to prove. I mean, how would you prove it?
It's not my job to find out.
I mean, to a certain extent, that's what Lost made me realize. Like, if you really want to say, like, definitively, because all it takes, and shows have done this, all it takes is one scene of, like, a character waking up from a dream or something, and you can totally reframe and invalidate everything that happened.
You got to stop talking about St. Elsewhere.
Before
I know it's your favorite 80s medical trauma.
And I mean, even Lost alluded to that with the Dave thing. The idea that it's just like, it's just in Hurley's imagination in the mental institution. But like, how can you ever say that anything you see really happens, quote unquote, like whatever that even means?
Well, as the Dutch philosopher once said, I think, therefore I am.
Now that guy wasn't Dutch.
Oh, damn it, I can't get this right. Yeah. I think it's I mean, That's why there's philosophers who deal with this, because it's a very interesting question. I just for a second I got lost in how crazy that is. Just be like, no, you just can't. I mean, that's what gets me about politics and news and stuff. And I just saw, America's favorite British night show host, late night show host, night host. Um, John Oliver, his little segment on what was it, medical scientific studies.
Oh right, yeah.
Which is just like scientific study says farts reduce cancer.
Right.
And it sounds like another one of my great jokes, but no, that was actually a real thing.
Yeah. I think the study didn't really say that, but it was reported that way. Yeah, and that's the thing. The
study didn't say that. So that's my point. Is I have been a victim of like, oh, that study says that. Well, I trust scientists. I'm a liberal. I mean, why wouldn't I trust a scientist?
Yeah.
That's what the whole climate change debate is about. Do we trust science?
Yeah.
That was the collective people shouting. And so, yeah, I mean, you want to believe that stuff, but even if the study had said that, or what, excuse me, even whatever the study concluded, doesn't actually mean it's true. It just means that's what the study concluded.
Right.
So even then you can't get at truth, and that again, that's kind of going back to Lost with Daniel. And that whole science, I mean, rewatching the show and understanding what the show's kind of really about on a big, big level, like, it gave me a newfound respect for that whole move of bringing in a scientist to the island, a physicist.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, if anyone can figure out what's going on here, it's a person who studies the nature of reality.
Right.
I don't know why I used that voice. And he was stumped, and again, to me, like, I get it. I wouldn't have thought this before, but that is the show saying, hey guys, you can't know anything, especially, and the island is a thing, so you can't know the island, and it's just, we don't want to deal with that. We watch stories to forget that inherent truth and reality, because we know that. I mean, that's, again, but going back, like, that's why we tell stories, is so we can try to understand how reality works. If there is a famine, how do you grow crops? Let's tell a story about the greatest crop grower, who grew all the crops during the famine. That's a horrible story, but I'm sure someone told it one day. The past. You know what I mean? That it's information being passed down that's useful to people. And so if you have a story that's not actually useful, it's just a weird thing to do, to a story that basically reaffirms that it's, life is inherently unpredictable and unknowable to a degree. So
yeah, the thing they did with Faraday was really I mean, I think a lot of the audience, I think there's a segment of the audience that really wanted a more concrete sci-fi direction for the show.
Yeah, I was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, me too, to a certain extent. More like like something that would happen on Star Trek or something, where maybe the words make no sense, but they sort of give like a technical sounding explanation of all sorts of crazy things that show up. And so, like, the idea that Faraday would come and say, like, oh, well, this is clearly just the island is a whatever, I don't know, like some kind of some kind of famous scientist bubble or something, like, and he'll figure out the secret, but I mean, not only did he really not figure out the island at all, he just seemed kind of confused by it completely. But I mean, his big theory that he really puts to the test by, trying to get, a nuclear device set off, was just totally wrong.
Yeah, and it's in the moment.
100% wrong.
And in the moment, and then the recent time after that moment, it really sucks. It really sucks that happened, that he was wrong, because your reaction is, well, why are you wasting my time? Why did we go through all of this if nothing was going to happen? How can he be wrong? Now I don't like him because he was wrong.
Yeah.
He wasted, But it's a really interesting thing to, in a storytelling way, communicate to the audience that science can't describe this thing. It's not something that usually comes up on TV shows. The need to tell the audience that science can't describe a fundamental part of the show.
Yeah.
Even on hardcore sci-fi shows. Obviously there's that idea in like Star Trek and stuff. They get to a point where, sorry, sir, our scanners won't work.
Right.
But it doesn't really go as far as saying, no science will work, because usually what isn't working is them scanning a ship that's more advanced or something.
Yeah.
So you can have that knowledge, but we just don't have it. And then there's a few times where it's okay, nobody really has it, but it's such a. But
usually
weird
they
idea.
figure out a way, like the thing fails, but they need to like reverse the tachyon emitter, or they need to do some like special thing.
Warp bubble.
And then there you go. And then they can scan the thing or figure out what the thing is. I mean, usually they figure out what the thing is. I mean, rarely did a Star Trek episode end with like, well, Captain, I don't know what the fuck that was.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not their style.
And the difference is also, it wasn't really kind of the point of the show. It wasn't, it was something the show did, but it wasn't like kind of the point. It wasn't one of the main themes. Whereas in Lost, you have that idea as a main theme of the show. And it's just a weird thing to do.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we spent 10 years talking about it.
Yeah, and I guess another contrast would be X-Files, where it does do the like, well, I don't know what that was thing. I mean, there's not I guess, the science is there, but there isn't necessarily a clear conclusion at the end. But I think the main difference between Lost and X-Files is that on X-Files, even if science can't explain it, we see it on screen.
Yeah, and there is a genre for things that cannot be explained, and we are okay with it being unexplained, and that's mystery. That's fine. We definitely are comfortable with that. But when the kind of point is to say, I'm just trying to think of a mystery, a classic mystery, where like Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express, and like Poirot is like, well, this is a mystery that can't be solved. I tried to solve it, and it just can't be solved. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I tried. You brought in the expert to give you the information you need for this, and it can't be done. Sorry. And in fact, I'm now confused by the whole pursuit. It just makes Lost such an interesting show, and I love that.
Yeah, now I don't know if I understand anything anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I then just fell at this. It's like, well, what did I solve before? Did I ever solve anything?
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm questioning that. Yeah,
that thing where Daniel starts crying when he sees the fake 815 wreckage. that always just comes back to me is like, what was that about? And I wonder, not always, but I wonder if that was some kind of weird temporal feedback loop of like, that's how he's going to feel after he's done dealing with the island.
Right.
It's like, oh God, I feel like this is going to ruin my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the best guess I have for what that's about. It's a weird moment. It's a very weird moment. I mean, his condition was connected with the island somehow. I think because he was born there, or maybe not born there, but conceived there.
Yeah.
And then taken away, and I think, God, now I'm confused again. Why was he having so many problems? Was it the island, or was it like his experiments, or was it both?
Yeah, did he start experimenting on himself or something?
Like he started having like all these memory problems and stuff, and I mean eventually he's like institutionalized.
Yeah, did he killed Teresa?
Oh yeah.
The lab assistant or something?
Yeah.
And then he went crazy. And then
that's what made him go crazy.
And then he saw the island and he got pretty normal for a while.
Yeah.
And then
well, they sort of implied that being on the island like restored him, because they had that scene with him and Charlotte, where like she's like trying to get him to remember cards or something. And like I thought they were implying that being back on the island was like bringing him back. I think even Widmore implies that when he goes to visit him in the like institution or wherever he is.
Is it like the island healed his brain damage?
Yeah. I think that's what they imply. Is like being on the island, restores him. And so that's why he's,
yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
But I'm not really confused. I'm not really confused. I am really confused as to why he got the brain damage in the first place. Like did was it just a side effect?
I think he was doing that the constant tests on himself, the like time travel stuff on himself. And I think that's probably the idea, is like something he screwed up his consciousness in his brain, and so he started having issues.
Right. And I mean his whole life is kind of wrapped up in this time travel.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe his experiments. That doesn't really. I don't know. Kind of a similar thing, but like his experiments at university. Is that right? Did I get it right, UK?
You did. I
get it right.
Yeah.
Hey, we try to serve all our international audience.
Yeah. Good job.
And maybe that's the connection to that moment when he's crying watching the fake wreckage, is like that's the moment that he connected to his self or something in the past. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make any sense. I was just trying to see if maybe he did a weird thing with like like he did the constant on himself.
Yeah.
He constanted in himself.
Yeah.
Or maybe he started having flashes before his eyes.
Yeah. It seems like some combination of those things.
Yeah, I wonder if he saw the wreckage and he had maybe a flash of the future. One time only.
Right.
It was a limited time offer.
Yeah. It's a weird moment, and I mean, I also sort of feel that way about Frank. It's a bit less weird. Maybe it's a lot less weird, but he was supposed to be the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
For A15. Like, they play that as a big moment, and I never really understood what the significance of that was supposed to be.
I thought that was just about, one of the themes on the show is just like random occurrence, and it just, you know, the idea that things would have been different if he would have been the pilot, like whatever that means. It doesn't necessarily mean like the plane wouldn't have gone down. Yeah, I'm not sure if I think it means anything more than that like feeling of fate, or that feeling of, like basically it's just another catalyst for interpretation. He might interpret that as great good luck or something, or like now he interpreted it as, it means he has a destiny on the island and he was meant to go, but he's entered, his fate's intertwined with the island because this coincidence happened. That kind of thing.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the idea. But in general with the tail section, I think Charlotte's story is a bit underplayed too. I feel like that's one of the things, looking back on the show as a whole, and once we get into season 4, we'll talk about this probably ad nauseum. But I think the writer strike happening in season 4, and like the impact that it had on the show is something that will always bother me. That alternate universe where
that's Frank. Yep, that's Frank not flying the plane.
Well, like where that didn't happen. Yeah, I guess. Well, shit. I guess.
you got Holland.
Fuck. Man, that hurts. But I really still wonder, like, what would have happened if Frank had been flying the plane? What would have happened if the writer's strike didn't happen and we got the season 4 normal version?
Mm-hmm.
Because it would have been a few episodes longer. I know that they planned for more tail section stuff in season 4 than we ended up getting, and they kind of carried it over to season 5. But I still feel like it was kind of truncated in some cases. Like they would have developed it more in season 4, but by the time they got to season 5, it was like, okay, we can kind of cut to the chase on this stuff. And so I think the Charlotte thing is just like, yeah, she was there in the Dharma Initiative. Like, that's it. Thank you.
Well, yeah, that last half is basically like, even I think more than the first half of the show, it's all about like, okay, who were the people who actually have a past on the island? The beginning part of the show is people who had just recently gotten there and how they dealt with it, and then the last part of the show seems, we encounter a lot of new characters who actually have a past to do with the island. I was just thinking pretty much most of the new characters after season, am I wrong about that? Like, have some history with the island? I mean, most of the freighter people.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point in the story, or maybe I just made this up. We'll see. I think at some point in the story, it's implied that those people on the freighter were chosen because of their past with the island.
Yeah.
So that, so it makes sense that they would all, I mean, at least the main ones. I don't know that Kimi necessarily had any past experience, or the captain.
How do you explain that part on the island that they call Kimi Cove? I don't know how you explain it. I think
2Ks.
Yes.
Kimi Cove. Oh God. Yeah. I think it's definitely something they wanted to introduce. They sort of had people who were there like already and have been there for a while, people who just got there, and I guess the next idea is people who left and then came back.
Yeah, three versions of the idea, which is what you would do if you're writing a show.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a logical progression because, you don't start with the people who were there and then now they're coming back. Like that wouldn't really work for the story. You start with people who've never been there. You meet with the people who are there now, and then you learn about the people who are coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's I guess that's a theme of the later half of the show. I didn't really think about, but
10 years later, still coming up with gems.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that's been an added bonus of continuing the commentary series. Just like still
random things that
finding really specific and seemingly integral ideas about what was going on.
Yeah. I in terms of the writer strike, I also think the other woman stuff with Juliet and Ben, I feel like that's something that they must have been planning to do something more with, but when the writer strike happened, decided wasn't important enough to ever speak of again, because they never even remotely referred to it again.
I just thought of a horrible overall idea of the show. Horrible in that it's very saccharine and sappy.
Okay.
Just the island. Oh God, it's gross. The island is the heart of man, the heart of every man.
Oh no.
I know, it gets worse.
I hate it already.
And the Losties represent how we each try to understand ourselves and our own hearts and desires with two major forces, good and bad, Jacob and Man in Black.
Right.
And how sometimes we feel imprisoned by our, each force respectively, and that eventually we have to get to the heart of the matter. I don't know, heart of the island, perchance, and make a decision to unblock what is stored in our heart, aka move the big rock in the light cave.
Right.
And then we will truly understand what we were meant to do and how to get what we should achieve. Now, the fact that
oh my God,
that's a plausible overall idea of the show makes me want to vomit. But I also like that I just came up with that.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Plausible.
Whoa, look at that.
Yeah, no, I mean, please let it not be true. But yeah, I mean, you know what? It's not invalid. I have to admit. But Lost is one of those shows where, there's definitely room for throwing interpretations on it. That's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, when you have a show about interpretation, everything's up for interpretation.
And it invites a lot of them. And I think that's, that's been that provides a lot of fodder, let's say.
Yeah.
To the point that that's you just came up with a new theory of the whole show, which is ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. It took us 10 years to get the old theory we had 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Here's another one. You're welcome.
Wow.
It's ridiculously on point. I'm trying to now poke holes in it. Now I'm playing devil's advocate against my own ideas. So I don't know. Maybe it's just broad and specific enough to be true, but it's like a good horoscope.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess good stories can work on multiple levels. So, I mean, it's possible that you can read it that way, but that doesn't necessarily. The show's also about other things. If that makes sense.
About the way that people in your past affect you and how you feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how if you bury things, they might explode. Like, I don't know, Black Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And about how you must how you have to seek the mysteries of your own desires and wonder if you're walking the right path. And there will be people who try to persuade you and get you off your path. And the only way to find your path is at the heart of the island. The worst. Well, I think that's what's really interesting about the show. In the end, is it's just got all these moving parts and layers.
Yeah, and it's really easy to, like, you can get pulled into so many little aspects, dissecting them and what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
There's really a lot of room for that, even within the the larger framework that I think is is pretty set and like pretty clear, that a lot of the show revolves around those basic ideas of um, like truth and knowledge and interpretation and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, I mean, I guess it goes naturally with that. Well, then that's what you're doing when you're watching the show.
Yep. You're
Yeah.
trying to find the truth, and by interpreting it
Yeah.
and having your own interpretation and meaning, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there aren't that many shows that really uh, that hit that point so thoroughly.
Yeah, because when Ally McBeal wins a case, she wins a case,
Yeah.
regardless how old the reference is.
Yeah, and I guess that's how I feel about X-Files. It's sort of like, yeah, they can't explain with science like what just happened, but it's there's aliens.
Yeah,
Like
but there's aliens, y'all.
there's no question about that. It's not there's no room to be like, well, maybe they just think there's aliens, but
Hmm.
actually it's like, no.
Mother told them there were aliens.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like I could imagine a lost version of the X-Files. You could do that show. It would be a really weird show that I don't
Yeah.
know how many people would want to watch, but you
Would
could
it
do
be
it.
Twin Peaks?
It kind of would be, I guess. It would be a lot more like Twin Peaks, that's for sure. Um, but yeah, I think uh, I I mean, I still find myself drawn to. I think, well, everybody knows this, right? Like certain things about Lost just we just keep coming back to them and
Hmm.
revisiting them and trying to work them out. And like we come up with the thing and it's like, yeah, it's that. And then, a few podcasts later, it might be like, well, maybe there's this other thing,
Yeah.
or maybe we should revise that, or whatever. Like it's like a constantly evolving process.
It makes me think of a four-dimensional hypercube where
Oh, really?
it's funny because I'm being serious and it's ridiculous that I'm serious and you were right to laugh.
I
That
mean,
was
I believe you, but it's just that's a sentence you don't hear very often.
when talking about a TV show.
Makes me think of a
Well,
four-dimensional
no,
hypercube.
you can't really
Really?
understand loss unless you understand higher dimensionary mathematics. No, just the idea of that extra dimension in a hypercube makes if we were trying to see it in three dimensions, it would make it move in a way in which that it's actually kind of station. It's like how do I describe it? you've seen animations of 4D cubes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Where it's moving when it exists,
Yeah.
because when you're seeing in 3 dimensions, that extra dimension means you're seeing rotation and translation and
Yeah.
all that stuff. I just pulled out some words. Wow. And so to me, that's what it's like. It's like trying to catch it in a snapshot and saying, okay, this is what the show is. It's what this 4D cube looks like in this instant. But then if you let another instant go by, well, now it looks like something different. And so I think it's kind of like trying to catch that 4D cube at the right moment to say, in our 3D world, which is, you know, analogous to us describing the show, what it actually looks like, what it actually is. I always love that stuff that we've talked about before about what things would look like in different dimensions. So a cube, which is a 3-dimensional object, what that will look like in 2 dimensions is a square. And so like the idea of that, trying to describe something when you don't have the right language really to describe it, and especially this thing, like you're just saying, like it's always kind of changing in a way. It's like morphing. You can't pin it down. That's why we keep coming back to it, because you can't come up with a real specific theory or explanation of the show that encompasses everything. You have to go a couple steps higher and more general and leave out some things.
Yeah.
And define the major themes and stuff. But it's really weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only way. That's the only way that, seems to me to have any chance of really working. Because I think the show is just not designed to have a good, all-encompassing, like, theory that explains all of the specific details.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not the kind of show it is. I think, it works really well thematically, and the overall, like, a structural kind of theory of the show is, like, really solid.
Mm-hmm.
But, with individual stuff, it's a case-by-case basis. Like, you just have to take the individual things and, maybe some of them connect to each other, but there's it's very unclear to me that we can reduce all of the strangeness on the show to, like, one concept.
Yeah. I mean, well, that would be, speaking of mathematics, like some trying to get, an equation for everything in the universe.
Yeah.
Like.
Exactly.
And if we can't do it, no one can.
There you go. That's spoken like an American.
Yeah, right? Take that, science. Stop trying, guys. We couldn't do it for Lost. How can you do it for the universe?
Exactly. Just don't bother trying.
You're not going to unify quantum mechanics and general relativity.
It just can't be done. Sorry.
No. Sorry, guys. Give up already. Yeah, so I think that was an interesting conversation.
I hope so.
I mean, we brought up 4D cubes, so
anytime that comes up.
If that's not intellectual stimulating banter that everybody wants about a show that's been off the air for several years, I don't know what is.
I should mention my favorite thing. Maybe I already talked about it. If you know which podcast I talk about this on, please let me know, because I have no idea. Is not cubes, but like circles and spheres and stuff. Because I think if you think about a 3-dimensional cube, like running it through 2 dimensions, like you're just gonna see kind of a square, and it's gonna be the same square the whole time. But if you think about like a sphere, a 3-dimensional sphere, and running it through 2 dimensions, what you see is a point, and then like circles getting bigger, and then circles getting smaller, and then a point, and then that's it. That's sort of a picture of the sphere, moving through time. You have to have time to understand that. But, as you see the circles changing in 2 dimensions, you get a kind of picture of what the 3-dimensional sphere is. So for a 4-dimensional sphere, That's how you would see it. It's sort of a point and then a three-dimensional sphere getting bigger, reaching a certain, degree of size, and then shrinking again down to a point, and that gives you an idea of what a four-dimensional sphere looks like.
So if you're ever out on a night walk and you see a cube appear in space as a point and then get bigger and then get smaller back to a point again, you have just seen a hypercube.
Congratulations.
Please get a selfie with it and put it on Instagram. You will get like 100 followers.
Oh my God.
No, you'll get more than that. Neil deGrasse Tyson will love you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he loves it. Yeah, that's all very interesting, Justin.
I think it's a fun one, because it's a little more vivid. Because unfortunately, like for a cube, like a four-dimensional cube, we would just see a three-dimensional cube. You could put colors on it or something to understand that it's like, it's not the same cube every time. It's like a sort of, range of cubes, glued together.
Yeah, that's what's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you think about going from 3 to 2, you can kind of understand how that works, because you see all the squares, like slices, like stacked together, make up the three-dimensional cube.
Yeah.
And the analogous thing happens in 4 dimensions. It's not easy to visualize, but we just don't live in, the universe just doesn't make it easy. We're not designed to visualize that.
Stop pressuring us to make this a reality.
It's too hard. It's just too hard. Our eyes don't like that four-dimensional thing.
Well, we didn't evolve to perceive 4 dimensions because it wasn't inherent in our survival.
Not at all. And the fact that we even have any kind of handle on it is, is great.
Yeah. Especially a whiskey handle.
Oh.
Don't know what that means.
I don't either, but I responded like it was a sick burn.
But yeah, I think it's been a very interesting ride. 10 years, we're still not done. We have 3 more seasons to do commentary on.
Yeah.
If you're wondering, it has been going slow because Justin and I, over the 10 years, have gotten busier. And I think
we had a little less going on in our lives when the podcast started.
Yeah, being younger, a little less going on.
Yeah, just little more free time, a little easier scheduling, and a little more ability to just kind of do this all for huge lengths of time all the time. So yeah, it's trickling out right now. But yeah, we have every intention of completing the show. You got to do it. And it was sort of a natural pause point anyway, because I think seasons 1 through 3 versus 4 through 6 is like a pretty clear division.
Part 1 and part 2.
Because once we get into season 4, like it opens up this whole can of worms that is the second half of the show. And it's sort of like we can put aside a lot of stuff from the blast or map. There's a lot of stuff from the first part of the show that starts to seem irrelevant because we have so many new problems,
and those problems are time traveling. Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun to get through all that stuff. And then I think we'll be done with the podcast proper. And, I really, my goal really is just to finish this thing before they reboot Lost. I don't want to be still podcasting about the original Lost if there's a new Lost coming.
Yeah, that would be really weird. And they probably will reboot it at some point. I think it's pretty ripe for that. But the likely scenario seems like they will reboot it in such a way that they lose the thing that was good about the original show.
If history has told us anything, rebootions, as I like to call them, don't usually have what the original had.
they'll preserve the superficial elements that didn't really matter that much, and
they'll convince you with teaser trailers that it's the show you liked and loved all those years.
Yeah. I mean, I'll still watch it out of curiosity, but
I watch it every week.
It's it's very doubtful that it'll be the same thing.
So at this point in our 10 years of podcasting about Lost on the Lost Lowdown, how many hours have we podcasted?
Oh, wow. We saved a surprise reveal.
I know.
So, this document was started a long time ago, and finally it's been updated to the most recent one we did. I guess it doesn't include this one because I don't know how long this one is yet.
Yeah, it can't by nature definition include this one, but up till before this one started.
Yeah, which was up to podcast 154?
Yep.
Is that right? We have podcasted for a total of 616 hours, 54 minutes, and 58 seconds.
Nice.
So, 600 hours. That's, I mean, what is that? Like, what are we looking at?
616 is 25.67
25 and 2/3 days. So that's a lot.
Not even a whole month yet. I thought not even passed a month.
Not even.
Not even a whole month. I don't know about you, but
is that not a?
Call me when we get to 720. I guess 720 hours. Mm-hmm. Wow. If you do 30 days.
Most likely we will get there.
Okay, maybe we can do like a February month, like 28, 672 hours.
Now I think based on the pace we're going, I think we probably will make it. We probably will just make it to a month's worth, I would guess.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I just kind of threw some calculations out there with my calculationer, and I think, 16 episodes left.
16 episodes left? What?
16 episodes a season times 3 seasons.
Okay.
48, and if we spent 2 hours on each one, which is maybe conservative, that's 96 hours, plus 616 is 12.
That's pretty close.
That's pretty close to, that is pretty close. Divided by 24. Yeah. Wow. But you got to get that point 3.
So, we go long on a few of them. We average 2 hours.
Yeah.
We'll end up pretty close.
And that's not including this one.
And it's not, hey, that buys us an extra couple hours.
Hey now. You're a rock star. Get the game.
God. Oh my God.
All-star? Rockstar? One of them.
If any of you like watching YouTube videos, there's this guy, I forgot his name, who's on YouTube who does like music reviews. He's like the music nerd or something.
Yeah, Anthony Fantano.
There you go, Anthony Fantano. Yeah, so I found this guy, and he did this thing. I guess it was like some kind of talk or presentation at some college somewhere. It says on the video. Anyway, it's like this in-depth analysis of the lyrics of All-Star by Smash Mouth.
Wow.
And he did it in such a way that I could not tell whether he was serious or not.
Mm-hmm.
I really could not tell. He might have been 100% serious, or it might have been a complete deadpan comedy. I really don't know.
That's my shtick. What's he doing my thing?
But
Come on.
It's really weird how well it stands up to analysis, the lyrics of that song.
That's great.
I was shocked. at how much meaning he pulled out of those lines. So anyway, if you wanna like watch that, you might like.
Yeah, all that glitters is gold. Why? That's not a true statement.
True.
So how did he defend that?
I don't remember specifically. He might have pointed out that it's not true. Maybe that's part of the point.
I don't even know if that's in the song.
It is. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold.
Oh, gold mold. One of those.
One of those couplets. But yeah, I never really took the song seriously. And then I heard that, and it made me think twice, even though I think it might all be a joke.
So much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets?
Now you're sounding like the video.
I mean, you'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow.
We were waiting for it.
You might know if someone who went told you about it. And you might shine if you reflect other objects instead of glowing internally.
Wow.
So, I'm just saying it's not scientifically factual. All right.
Interesting.
Boom! I smashed their Smash Mouth.
You sure did.
But yeah, back to LLD. I do love that stuff. I love, I don't have to say it. I just did it earlier. I do love that stuff. But yeah, okay. So we might get to like 30 days, which is cool.
Yeah. So then obviously.
Cool, insane, a waste of time, whatever adjective you want to use.
I would say once we get there, and we end the podcast, I think the obvious next step is like the Lost Lowdown 30-day challenge. Can you listen to the entirety of the podcast in 30 days?
Well, you can't. No, I mean, you can't listen to it while you're sleeping. Does sleeping count?
Oh.
You can't make time go faster.
Can you not like stay awake for a month? Is that not doable?
Oh man, only on the island. Yeah, no, I think that's the only I love that idea. That's such a great idea, 30-day challenge, but not in 30 days.
Maybe it's too challenging.
God, how long would it take to even download all of it? Do you have?
I do have stats for how much space, disk space, this podcast takes up. It looks like it's 14...
Hey Justin.
What?
How much podcast space does it take up? How much disk space does the podcast take up?
Well, I'll tell you. It's 14,406 megabytes, which would be 14.4 gigabytes.
So, if you were on a 100 megabit FiOS fiber optic connection, you could, let's see, carry the one.
You did not carry the one.
I carried 2 ones. They were both very heavy. It looks like it would take 1128.48 second. Let's see. Second. Yeah, that's seconds. I'm doing this all in my head and divide it by the hours would be 60, and then another 60 times 60. 18 minutes on a 100 megabit FiOS connection.
Wow. 10 years of our life in 18 minutes.
That's a good bargain, folks. I'm just saying. Now I have to do the math. Not 18 seconds. Did I say 18 seconds?
You said 18 minutes.
18 minutes. Sorry. Yeah, 18.8 minutes. And well, this times that's how many minutes a day times 365 times 10, 5,256,000 minutes and 10 years. Yeah, so 18.8 divided by that would be 0.0000003576 something.
What are you computing?
I guess the ratio. Yeah. The ratio. So it took us 10 years to get what you could download in 18 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not really. We weren't doing this 24 hours a day for 10 years. But so I guess my calculation is
luckily
just like Lost, all calculations are
meaningless. You brought it home.
See what I did there, guys? I brought it home. Wow. We brought this home several times.
Yeah, it's true.
We're the home bringers.
We keep going home again.
Yeah. What are we? A border collie? I don't know what that means. Cool. So what else are we talking about on this podcast? Did we wrap up our first segment? That was our first segment, folks.
That was our first segment?
Uh-huh.
What's our second segment?
That was just the intro. Now we'll start the podcast.
Oh, so the podcast starts now. Yeah. So let's podcast about, what are we podcasting about now?
Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that Tyrion. He's such a Lannister.
He is.
Okay, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You know, we just kind of wanted to do a quick little podcast just to kind of recap some of the history of the show.
Check in, celebrate.
Check in, do a little something. Speak
in general, speak about other shows.
Yeah, there's there's been a lot of fans along the way, especially in the beginning, and we can't have a podcast in 2016 and not talk about Vince and Steven still hanging in there.
Oh yeah.
Raxavace.
Oh yeah.
How you pronounce that? I feel like it's French. How would you say it in French?
Wait, I'm gonna have to see it. Cause like in my head it was different letters.
Raxivace. Raxavace. Okay.
Something like that.
Just posted in the forum. Hey guys, you curious where you can get in on all the furious Lost chatter on the internet and talk about your favorite podcast, the Lost Lowdown? Justin, where could they go to find such a hub of the internet?
Wow. Like the blog? Or
I love the setup and you don't know your response. Come on, man.
Sorry, I think they should go, probably the best way is to just go to thelostlowdown.com.
But what if they want to really get in the mix of where people are talking ideas and formulating stratagems?
If you want to mix it up on the forum, then you should go to tllld.net, or, like I said, you can go to lostlowdown.com and click on the link for the forum.
Oh,
which is right there on the right.
Forum. How fancy! Wow.
Yeah, it's a very nice forum. And
when I was a kid, I always hoped I'd grow up and have a forum.
Really? Because when I was a kid, I didn't know what a forum was.
Yeah, no, I was a weird kid. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Santa Claus, can I have a forum? And he's like, get this kid off my lap. He talked like that. He was a weird Santa Claus.
Yeah. You're bad, Santa.
He got fired soon after.
Yeah.
And it's been fun over the years. I mean, I just, again, going back to how we started this, the idea that 616 hours, Jesus, imagine what we could have done with our lives.
Yeah.
How many businesses could we have started?
Well, probably a lot. And just for the record, Lost Lowdown isn't a business.
You haven't been getting your paychecks? Okay, goodbye. The podcast's over. All right.
I mean, it was my understanding that Lost Lowdown recently became a limited liability corporation. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, the liability is so limited that it doesn't include you.
It's very limited.
Or maybe the liability is so limited it does include you. Who knows how LLCs work?
It can work both ways, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't do it for the money, folks. We didn't do it for the money. That's one thing we can say.
Yeah, we're still not sponsored. We're still not sponsored by Audible.
The original indie podcast.
We don't need you to go download a free audiobook if you sign up for a free trial.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you in a calm, soothing voice, please sign up for our Audible podcast. The first podcast is free at audible.com. If you like, click and subscribe. Like a certain Sam Harris does when I try to listen to his intellectually stimulating podcast.
He has a podcast?
He does a podcast. It's great.
Is it called Harris Cast?
No, it's called Samcast.
Oh, okay.
With Harris. And yeah, no, we won't. We haven't made you buy anything.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we're trying to guilt them into giving us money for the past work we've done. I mean,
for all we haven't made you do, like
who works 616 hours for free? I mean,
yeah. What kind of morons?
What kind of sadistic, self-centered?
Not sadistic, masochistic.
Oh, then we're sharing two different things. I'm trying to blame the audience for making.
Oh, the audience is sadistic. We're masochistic. Sadistic.
Yeah.
If we don't get anything from you.
You know how I remember sadistic and masochistic?
What?
You know how I remember which one is sadistic and which one is masochistic?
No.
Except for just remembering it.
Mm-hmm.
M masochistic. M me.
Wow.
There it is. You're welcome, folks. See what we do here?
Wow.
See what we do here.
It's a good one. Yeah, so did we give out the address for the mailing the money?
Yeah, you can mail it to 108.
Yeah. Did you get a pen? Do we need to give him a moment to get a pen?
Please take a moment to get a pen or pencil, but a pen is preferred.
Please use a pen, because if you use a pencil, it might get erased, and then we won't get the money.
And if you use a Sharpie, be sure there's enough paper underneath and you're not writing on perhaps a family heirloom made of wood.
Oh, yeah, that would be really bad. And also, like, don't write with a highlighter. Like, that's a really stupid thing to do. I hate when people write with highlighters.
We don't want your money if you write with a highlighter.
Yeah, you just send it back.
Send it back. Don't even send it.
Oh, yeah, right. Sorry. Don't send it.
Just stop where you started.
Yeah. Put it back in the bank.
Put it back in the bank.
If it was in the bank. Or put it in your sock drawer or wherever you happen to keep your money.
You are about to write a 90s pop hit. Put it back in the bank. If it was even in the bank. Maybe put it in your sock drawer. Yeah, I think Ace of Base would love it. And,
some people don't like banks. I mean, I don't want to presume. Credit union. Perhaps use a credit union.
Hey, I'm a credit union guy.
Hey, so a lot of great people are credit union guys.
You know what my bumper sticker says?
What?
Community first. And that's what I believe in, and that's the name of my credit union. Yeah.
Wow. Nice. Yeah, keep it local. Keep it, whatever.
Hey, Dodd-Frank. Am I right? Dodd-Frank, anybody?
Dodd?
Dodd-Frank people.
Dodd?
Let's not have another financial collapse. Because
not Todd.
No, not Todd. Not Todd Frank.
It's Dodd.
Dodd.
What happened with Dodd? Poor Dodd.
Dodd died.
Did Dodd die?
Dodd did die.
Oh man, this is getting a little ridiculous.
Now we see why there's 616 hours and not like a tight 40 hours.
Where we could have given the same content, but without
all the extra fat.
Additional, I was gonna say flair, or the accoutrement, if you will.
Yeah, when I buy lean chicken, I like it to be 98% accoutrement free.
Most people think that's, maybe waste, but those of you who are listening know that's actually the good part.
That's the part you want. It's the part with all the flavor.
That's where all the magic happens.
Mm-hmm. The nutritional part, sure, you want that.
Yeah, that's got to be in there. I mean, you got to have that, or what's the point?
What's the point? Why are you eating it? But you want a taste and you want the flavor.
Exactly.
So you want an extra 5 hours per podcast.
Mm-hmm. That's clearly what you want.
Mm-hmm. If you're still listening to this, you really want it. Actually, you might have a problem. You might need to seek professional help because we're podcasting from a mental asylum. And these episodes have never been broadcast.
Oh man, that would be a great reveal.
Wouldn't it be a great reveal?
For the end of the Lost Lowdown.
We're like two people in a mental institution with a wall between us and like a vent. And we just created Lost, and then we created a podcast about it.
Wow.
Man, that's a show I want to see.
Yeah. I would watch that show.
Man, the guards are like, why are they doing a podcast and waiting in 5 months before they do another one? That's weird. I know. Clearly we're out of things to talk about.
Is it?
Is it clear, or are we out of things to talk about?
It was ambiguous. I'm not even sure which one I meant. Mm-hmm. Probably both or neither.
Both or neither, or both and neither at the same time.
There you go.
That can be we learned from the leftovers that can be an option.
That does happen.
Yeah, it used to be both, but now it's neither.
Right. Yeah, you love. It's great when
it's funny. There it is again. The hypercube, right? Like you said, like the idea of time as a factor and trying to understand it. So yeah, like that's the thing you don't get. Like, is it A or is it B or is it C? And it's like, well, C is actually B after A.
Yeah. That's a weird one. It used to be A. Mm-hmm. Then it was B.
Yeah. So now what is it? Because now when we show you B and we show you it used to be A, they're broken both times.
Right. Yeah.
And if we're speaking to metaphorically, think about the temple pool. That's classic example of
the healing temple.
Did it heal people? That's A. Did it not heal people? That's B.
We of course never saw it actually heal someone properly.
No.
We were told that it did.
Yep.
And we saw it corrupted.
Mm-hmm. When we first see it, it's corrupted, and so you can't really tell how it was supposed to work.
It's already corrupted. God, that's such a lost thing to do.
You know what it is? Here's a very simple example. It's like cutting to a cake on the table. And two people are sitting next to the cake. The cake has clearly been eaten. And one person says the cake was good, and one person says the cake was bad.
Yeah.
That's what Lost is like. No, not the cake was good or cake was bad, but that the cake was eaten. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the action. Yeah. One person says, I ate the cake, and one person says, you didn't eat the cake.
Mm-hmm. I don't know who ate the cake.
Who ate the cake?
I don't even know if anybody ate the cake.
Maybe the cake was already eaten.
Maybe it was just like that.
It came looking like it was eaten.
Yeah. How do you know it's not that?
Why would you think it's not that? Just because it looks like it was eaten, and you've eaten cake. See, now you're a part of the show. You're a Holland. Yeah, no, we could talk about this show forever, and we have been.
We're doing a good job.
Yeah, it's weird. It's definitely a weird thing to. It's like a merry-go-round that never stops.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into the part 2 of the show because I think we got a lot out of revisiting part 1. I mean, it kind of exploded the whole show for us, I think. But I think it'll be super interesting to go into part 2 because I think part 2 is home to, most of the major issues that the show has to offer. Because I think most of the things that really bother us that have already happened, up through season 3, are things that are connected with stuff that really comes into play in part 2.
Yeah.
Like the cabin, for example.
Oh man. Maybe we'll finally realize why Kate was in that tree, and then it'll be like, oh man, we get it now.
Kate in the tree. Oh man. If Faraday had that theory, it would have been impressive.
Right?
No, we're not variables. We can't change the past, but I can zap you to the future.
Mm-hmm.
But Kate's going to be in a tree.
Some people might be in a tree.
Genius.
Yep. Because we came from the sky. Right? That's clearly what that means, is they dropped from the sky.
It does seem like that's what it means.
Right? Which makes no sense.
No, it makes no sense at all. They were not in the sky in the past, of course.
They didn't parachute from an airplane.
Yeah. Wait. So, hold on. When they time traveled...
Uh-oh.
They time traveled to the same location, right? They wouldn't time travel and then oh my god, we're in a different part of the island all of a sudden. That's it.
I don't remember. Right? I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay.
But I believe so.
Yeah, I thought it was the same place. And they weren't just oh my god, somebody's in a tree now. But I don't know. Maybe it was different because of the explosion. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe the explosion, before it zapped him out, it threw Kate into a tree. Is that too ridiculous?
Well, if she would, the only that makes me think that's not true is, I would want to believe that if they were all hit with any of the force of a nuclear explosion, that they would be more than
stuck in
a tree. Yeah.
That's a fair point.
I think the explosion should have warped reality or whatever, opened a Higgs boson tunnel or something. What? Einstein, sorry, I meant Einstein-Rosen bridge. Excuse me, nerds.
We will consider excusing you at a later time.
Oh, at a later time, not now. Oh man, so now it's up in the air whether or not I've been excused.
For now, you remain unexcused.
This has become a thriller. I don't know how the outcome will be.
If you see us 2 more times.
Oh man, I love that. Oh man, if you do good, if we excuse you, you will see us 1 more time. If you're not excused, you will see
2 more times. I love that.
The greatest. That. Yeah, that's a reference from Mulholland Drive, and it's one of the best things ever.
Because it's going to be one time no matter what, and it's not a relief.
And you still don't know. You
really might come the second time.
And that's what I love is it's already a threat. He's what he says is a threat. If he comes back the first time, that's already a threat because you still don't know what's happening, and then it sets up a bigger threat for the next. Because then now you're really waiting.
Yeah.
Now you really don't want him to come that second time. It's a great. Oh man.
And no one ever says that, like that's really unique. Like, if you don't do this, I'll come see you 2 times. Mm-hmm. No one says that.
Yeah.
Like, that's so weird. I love it. It's just such a weird threat. They come once. They always come once.
What was his line again, exactly?
I think it was...
He was talking to Justin Theroux's character, speaking of Theroux. And he said, if you do good, I'll see you once.
I think so.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, I don't remember the exact wording.
Okay. Now, I'm just wondering if it's getting at some, like, cyclical idea, that they're in some kind of loop or something. So if they get out of the loop, they'll only see him once. But if he's stuck in the loop, he'll see him that second time. Decision loop.
Right. So... Yeah. I mean, the IMDb version could be wrong, but he says, now you will see me 1 more time if you do good. You will see me 2 more times if you do bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's classic Lynch.
It really is. It really is. 2 more times.
And it doesn't discount seeing him more times than that.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's simple, like, if then.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say any more.
Yeah, because every time he sees him, he could say that. Right? Every time he does good, he shows up and says, "You did good. Now, if you do good,
right,
see me 1 more time." It's like, no, stop making me see you. Yeah. So there was a couple of quick little thingies. I don't know. You wanna just throw out maybe your favorite what was the thing? Oh, biggest pet peeve on Lost? I think that was the thing Vince proposed on the hub of the internet, tllld.net.
Biggest pet peeve?
Yeah, I think that was it.
That's interesting.
How do you say pet peeve in French?
I think it's bête noire.
So black something?
Black beast.
Beast? Yeah. A pet peeve is a black beast. Noire. Those are completely opposite images. A pet peeve is a small rodent that you keep with you that annoys you mildly. They have a black beast. They have a black beast.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so weird. That's so crazy.
Yeah. Or dark beast, they're a little flexible about noir.
Yeah. But just the fact that it's a beast.
Yeah, beast. I mean, beast.
How do you say monkey on my back?
Oh God, you're really testing me. I don't know an equivalent expression for that.
Okay.
I did specifically learn pet peeve because that comes up. But yeah, monkey on my back. Actually, what does that even mean?
Monkey on my back means you got something pushing you down, like something that won't let you alone. A burden.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to think about that. Nothing comes to mind for that. I mean, I could say it literally, and I could kind of describe it, but you want like a real phrase.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So what's your biggest dark beast?
I was thinking about it, and I have a few. I mean, I definitely have more than a few pet peeves with the show.
Oh, that's what we're gonna do. Try to guess each other's answers.
And you're asking for the biggest. And I would say, like, for me, there's I might be forgetting stuff, but when I just think about it right now, there's kind of two things that come to mind.
Okay, I'm gonna try to guess them.
Okay.
So one is the cabin.
It's definitely related to the cabin. I didn't quite say the cabin because I guess for me, my pet peeves are specific. So, I mean, if it were going to be the cabin, it would be a specific aspect of the cabin. And I would say that in a sense, one of them is a specific aspect of the cabin.
And then my second guess would be, I want to say Desmond's flashes and being wrong.
Oh, that's a good one. I actually forgot about that one.
Okay. Well, what are your two?
So my first one is just the sort of inconsistency about like what really happened when Ethan kidnapped Claire and Charlie.
Oh, of course.
Like that's something that bothers me every time. There's sort of like the version they tell later in the camp. There's the version that Ethan tells later, and none of them really add up for me. Like I can't picture the same story being described. Of course, that's very Lost.
Mm-hmm.
But I sort of find it frustrating because it all goes on off screen, and I feel like I don't have a clear picture of what actually did happen.
Yeah, that's true.
And it just kind of bothers me. I still, I still think about that because that was kind of a, a hidden part of the story for a long time, and even when they revealed it, it was still hidden. So the other one I think that kind of popped in my head that just and I guess I pet peeve, like this is something that kind of makes me angry. Is like fucking Lennon running in and saying like,
nice.
You just killed the only thing that was keeping him out.
Mm-hmm.
And then dying and never explaining anything about what that means.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So that one's connected to the ash and stuff. So, I mean, it is kind of connected to the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
In a way. But, like, just the bluntness of that statement. Like, such a clear expression of, like, here's a fact. And sort of, like, no consideration for, like, how that's consistent with anything we saw before. Even in that same episode. Like, why would he say that? What does that mean? Mm-hmm. It leaves so many unanswered questions, and it's so quick. And it's like, you, Lennon, you're gonna like introduce like problems before you die?
You're welcome.
Like translator guy? Who's like what? Like that drives me crazy.
Nice. I think let's see. There's so many. One of my biggest pet peeves, although it is part of the theme of the show, is just people believing things that they have no reason to believe. That's a big one.
Do you have a specific example of that, or it just happens so often that
anything that happened with Locke? I mean, what I was gonna say is, Locke. I guess kind of number two in maybe number one is Locke being used as a punching bag with no redemption. Just completely being defiled as a character. And completely is a thing I don't really like.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
The believing things is a specific example would be the others, just everything they did.
Right. That's a good one too.
Jacob is something? All right, I guess we'll follow Jacob, whatever that is.
Why not? Let's devote our lives to him. And wait, who's here this week?
Yeah, until his his nemesis tells us, well, I'm gonna kill you if you don't leave, and we say, oh well.
Oh well, never mind then.
Never mind then. Sorry.
We'll follow you instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that annoyed. I'm annoyed now thinking about that.
Yeah, it's craziness.
Yeah, that's, oh my god, yeah, it's a good one. Definitely.
Nice.
I'll also just throw in the time travel paradoxes, like unraveling that, and like it's connected to the loophole.
Yeah.
You know, like just how that whole story is how we're supposed to imagine that played out from his point of view. You know, to me that's a huge hole in the story that I really wish they had filled.
Play that from whose point of view?
Man in Black's point of view.
Ah, okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not clear. Like he's like manipulating the time travel, but then he's in the past as Christian. Is he? You know what I mean? Like how did that work?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the whole prophecy of like, well, I know Locke is gonna do this, so therefore I will plan to. You know what I mean? Like I sent Locke back, and that's how I knew I sent Locke back, and you know, like. That's the time travel paradox that of his loophole plan that I don't really understand at all what we're supposed to think.
Yeah,
the order is, you know, like when did he have the idea and like how did he get the idea to manipulate time travel, and also just functionally like how does it work?
You
know, can past him like get in on the plan somehow? You know, even if he has the plan in the future.
Yeah, he's like, hey, listen, Smoke Monster, I'm also you, and let's team up.
Yeah, like that's the sort of thing. Like you want to leave the island too, right? Like, I mean, I'll buy that. Past him would collaborate with future him, but you know, I just kind of want to see that. I want some acknowledgement of how insane his plan was.
Yeah.
You know, because like when you really try to unravel it, it's like, man, wow, that happened on the show.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, yeah, it did, but it kind of flies under the radar because it's just like, yeah, I found a loophole. You know, and we don't really get any more than that. Just kind of a hint of how it might have worked, and always from other characters' point of view. You know, I think that's why we can't see
it's all solved. I mean, not all, but like the necessitation to answer that to a great level of detail would be all solved if at some point early we hear a line that just says, well, only the leader of the others can kill Jacob.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
Yeah.
Or only Jacob's followers can kill Jacob. Something like that. So we at least get, okay. The whole point was, you know, because it's if that's true, then we go, okay, well his plan was to get someone who's gullible in position to be the leader of the others, so that he can manipulate them into killing Jacob. That's it's a soap opera plan.
Yeah.
You know, so that's not too crazy.
And I feel like that's basically true, but the missing piece is like, you know, it doesn't seem like that mattered. You know, it seems like that was like a lucky coincidence or something. It's like, really?
Wait, what was the lucky coincidence?
That he became the leader of the others.
Oh yeah.
You know, like it's sort of like he knew where Jacob was. You know, it's not like he needed to be directed there. You know, he just needed someone who was willing to kill Jacob. Like that's what it looks like. And
yeah, and what gets it confusing is I think a different story could have had similar elements, but then when they get to Jacob's lair and Man in Black and the guys of Locke is there with Ben, like Man in Black Locke is the one who tries to kill Jacob, because the whole point was, hey, he's the one who's in command of the others, so he can now, in a different body of the
that would have made more sense as a loophole.
That would have made sense. Yeah. Or even if he tried to kill him himself and it didn't work, and then Ben kills him and it's still in that scene like that. Yeah. But for him to do all of that work to become Locke, and then now the next part of the loophole is to convince Ben to do it, is just so much.
Yeah.
It's so much that he didn't, like, I don't know, I think I'd have to really look at the timeline again, but the idea that he would have even known that Ben was around in the future to even be available on the island to kill him, because, he was off the island at a certain point. And like Man in Black in the guise of Christian did tell Locke that he would have to die, but he didn't also say, hey, make sure Ben's back on the plane.
Right.
Now he did tell Locke that he had to go convince all the Losties to come back, but he never was like, and make sure you get Ben to come back, because I really need Ben to come back, because I'm going to convince Ben to kill Jake. It's like the wires are so crossed.
Right. Right. Not to mention the stuff I was going on about, which is just the nonsense of time travel manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, whatever his plan is, like, manipulating time travel is just a crazy thing to try to think about.
Yeah.
Like, when he had the idea and how he could execute it with time-traveling characters.
That's what's interesting, though. Like, you got, obviously this show is about sort of these, like, generalizations, so, like, or big ideas, So, we see Man in Black in the early centuries when, Titus Welliver's playing him, and he basically digs the well that becomes the orchid.
Right.
And he's, so he already understands the light and water that can control time travel.
Yeah.
So to me, that just says, like, if time travel is this, like, physical thing that you can control, then obviously that's like metaphorical. It's not time isn't water and light. So it's this idea that he had some control over the physical world in that way. Yeah, I don't know. Whenever you introduce time travel in a plot line, it's so tough. It's so tough to figure out certain things.
Yeah.
Who's to say he didn't get a glimpse of the future at any given point and start his,
Right.
Or maybe he saw the future when he became the smoke monster.
Right. Right. Yeah. There is some mild suggestion that he can do that, or that he somehow perceives things that are going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
So yeah, that's
Oh, that makes me think, speaking of fate, that's another pet peeve of mine, is the incident. Like, the idea that, like, the Losties being on the island didn't actually mean anything for the incident. It wasn't like Jacob made it, his whole loophole to save the world on the island, is to, like, make sure I can get the people on the island who, through a series of crazy events over several seasons, will be in the right place and right time in the past to avert, worldwide catastrophe.
Yeah, it's not clear that mattered.
I guess that's Alias.
Yeah, it kind of is. It's true. But yeah, I do think the incident is kind of underplayed. Like, they don't really address the significance of it. It kind of seems like it's just a plot device to get them to come back to the future, but the event itself doesn't seem like it has any major significance, even though, like, it should. But since they don't acknowledge it, it's not really clear, I think, my pet peeve about that would be that there's no real talk about that later. Jacob doesn't mention it,
Yeah. Well, maybe another 600 hours we'll get to it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I guess that's it for the podcast.
All right.
Well, yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
And stick around for the next 10 years.
Hey. Wow. It's going to take 10 years? That was my takeaway. Yeah, but anyway, here's to another 10 or possibly less, but maybe still 10. But anyway, it was awesome.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thanks and namaste.
Namaste and good luck.